seed project with the construction department has put together this year, starting in September. It's a new concept as part of the college's CPD, which is our continued professional development. First off, with any sort of action research, which the seed project fundamentally is, it's an action research project, you need to identify a problem. And for us in the construction department, I think that was quite easy really, because we've got some very good success rates with our adult learners, but with our 16 to 18 year olds that are infilled into adult programs, the difficulty was that they weren't achieving with the same success rates. And really we wanted to drill down into that and find out why. We had some ideas why, but the nice thing about action research is that you can put those ideas into practice. And that's what we did. Starting with some team meetings and people suggesting the reasons why they thought these students were falling away.
Some of them have this attitude that, or you can say a mindset that they can't progress any further, that this is as far as they can go in terms of their learning.
Yeah, this cohort does have its unique set of characteristics, particularly in the classroom. They're resistant to teacher, they're resistant to the classroom itself.
In terms of students feeling that they fit in, 16 to 18 learners, there seems to be a lack of fit in terms of belonging within a group. They don't see the link between education and future long-term goals.
They had their own timetables, so the onus was on them to turn up to their maths and English classes under their own steam, under their own volition. And for many of them this was too difficult. It was a step too far from the point of view of having low motivation. As we moved through the sort of action research cycle, we moved from the sort of planning stage, which was around about sharing information, the blog, the spreadsheet, getting everybody involved in that part of it. And then we moved into the act bit, which was really us then trying to develop ideas.
One of the things suggested is sending a letter home, which kind of highlights, the consequences, obviously consequences in terms of law and in terms of regulations that's been set out by the education department.
We have a weekly meeting, and then Q come up with the idea in the meeting about how we can actually implement an actual subject into it. And so then I come up with the idea of, or me and Q come up with the idea of doing a building project. The guys quite like that because it's something for them that's contextualised to the trades they're in.
Yeah, we had to set up our own business, write our own company name on a computer, print it out, and then we had to buy carpet bricks, and we had to get the cheapest quotes, and whoever did wins.
We put on an extra tutorial for our learners that Steve Lockwood ran in tandem with student support with QAna. And we found then that we could use questionnaires, we could develop their math skills.
That was actually very helpful because mainly I struggled on multiplication.
Right.
And because I kept attending every Wednesday, it actually helped me to get through.
Good feedback from the functional skills staff.
This year there really has been a change. I wasn't aware of the reasoning behind this change at first, but previously we used to have to, Steve in particular had to find the students around the place, shepherd them into the class to make them learn maths. Yeah? But this year I found that they were lining up at the classroom before I even got there. So that was the first change I noticed, and I thought that's different. Within the classroom, I used to sometimes say if they were really badly behaved, just leave the classroom. I'm going to mark you 0 on the register as a form of punishment. This year, when I mentioned that to a couple of students, they said, no, we're not moving. So punctuality and the fact that they wanted to stay in the classroom and not, not be sent out and not be reported as not attending was the biggest difference.
I've been going to the maths and I was sitting in maths looking at it. I come in the next week for my paint decorating and I see the measurements and I was like, thank God I went to maths last week. That's all I thought.
And we could also develop some sort of team cohesion so that this group of 16 to 18 year olds could gather once a week, talk about their issues, anything to do with the course. And it also allowed us to develop a reward scheme. Although we couldn't motivate them from the perspective of maybe getting into work, we could perhaps motivate them in other ways. Hopefully along the way they develop the skills to get through their course and then move into work, because they certainly weren't ready at this moment.
What we've also implemented this year, which the students actually really got engaged with, was target setting. For that they get so many points for attendance and punctuality.
At the end of the project, we tally up all the scores and then they can trade those points for actual prizes.
Obviously, the more you come in, you get credits, I think, and the more credits you get,
And then if they get 300 plus points at the end of the project, then they can swap for a trip.
We had an option to go paintballing or football for everyone, likes a bit of fun.
My name's Priscilla Angelique Page. I'm the head of Learning Improvement and Standards at the college. One of the things that's interesting for this project is actually the way that the English and maths diagnostics have been looked at prior and also looked at the end, just to see if there's any impact. So where targets are very specific, whether it's using BKSB, whether it's using the outcomes for a particular qualification or other types, where it's very, very specific, then it should be able to enable learners to have something that they can measure their progress against. And when they're broken down effectively, it should provide learners with a nice way of being able to map their progress and get those small gains that should hopefully help to motivate them as well.
With the 8 students that we had on the course, there's 8 people going, so that means they're more or less all going to pass, well, they will do within the next week. For motivational, the guys like the idea, or the students like the idea of something to work towards, a goal, an aim, and this seems to have worked well.
So Tim, how has the SEED project impacted on success?
From my perspective, I think the success of this action research that we've been doing is that students that perhaps previously wouldn't have succeeded and got through their course have this year. And I think for me that's a huge benefit to what we're doing. Moving forward, I think we need to ensure that these students have some form of group cohesion, and that the studying they're doing makes sense to them in real terms, in real life terms.
Based on the success from the SEED project this year, and based on the results and the changes that we've seen in the young learners, one of the things that I would suggest is that we expand on this idea, on this project for the next academic year, and then it would also be nice to see other vocational courses to take it on board as well.
Moving forward, what I'd like to see is taking it from the classroom to the actual site environment. If we can have an ongoing project where the guys can actually write out what they're building, so they're drawing out what they're designing what they're doing, working out the calculations, emailing me all the calculations and in a letter form so that I can check their English.
So I think going forward, there are a couple of really interesting things that have come out of this project. So this project has initially looked at factors around extrinsic motivation and what really can be done to support learners to kind of achieve in that sense. And I think it would be very interesting to look at those factors around that affect their intrinsic motivation going forward.
Yeah, so for next year I would really like this project to continue. It's had a huge impact on the students regarding their attendance, punctuality and motivation to achieve in the classroom. So it's been a success as far as I'm concerned. Yes, it would be good to have further, deeper links with the vocational side.
I think group projects for next year will also be good for all vocational learners within different pathways to come together to do core unit projects.
We found as we moved through the year we were gathering some really sort of rich data via the blog and the spreadsheet about the individual students, the amount of phone calls home, dealing with the mothers, the relatives, that we could actually get the right sort of support and structure in place for these students to move forward. We've had some great successes this year, there's no doubt about it. There's students who've got through their courses that wouldn't have done before. Students now that are going to progress onto level 2, progress into apprenticeships and into the workplace. So we're really, really pleased about that. And I think we've got to take some of the really good stuff that's come out of this and develop our curriculum next year and our timetable to meet the needs of these learners. And one of the things we've done already is we've set aside a couple of hours next year for the study programme learners to gather together to do a shared project. We've been through the whole cycle now and we're at this sort of evaluation stage and looking to see moving forward what we can apply to make changes next year. And for us, we've already made those changes. We've put a slot on the timetable for 2 hours a week for all of our 16 to 18s to gather together to work on a common project. What that project is, we've yet to work out, but we certainly got the time now allotted for that. And that's going to go a long way to developing team cohesion with this group. There still is, there still will be other issues moving forward, but that's the nice thing about action research. I think people talk of it as a cycle, but I think it's best thought of as a spiral, that you move through your circle and then you apply and then you move on again. And if you continue doing that, at the end you will end up with best practice and what is best for your own learners. So next year moving forward, we do have a plan. It may not be a perfect plan, but we have a plan and we're going to apply it, we're going to reflect on it, and then we're going to move forward again. So I think eventually we will get best practice with this group of learners.
I want to carry on with my level 2 here, so I'm looking forward to that.
I'd like to start my own business, but not just of painting and decorating. With my family, all of us just. I get my sister in as a cleaner. Got it all worked out.
My painting and decorating teacher actually came up with a sheet saying, there's an offer for an apprenticeship, and I didn't hesitate to take it.